Good evening. May I ask everyone to please be seated so we can begin our service, and to remind you to please make sure that your cell phones and any other devices are on silent. I'm Betty Adams, co-president of Temple Sinai with Lynn Weinstein, and a warm welcome to everyone here in our sanctuary and watching from home. We're so glad to have you celebrating Shabbat with us. Tonight's service will be led by Lynn Weinstein and others from our congregation with the wonderful musical accompaniment of Dr. David McFarland. And now I will turn it over to Lynn.
Thank you, Betty, and Shabbat Shalom to everyone. We're so glad that you're joining us tonight, and as Betty said, we're very glad to have folks tuning in on our streaming service across the country, across the county, and the country. Tonight, we begin again. We might be wounded from too many months of chaos, confusion, and discontent, but we will not be broken in our homes, in our community, or in our synagogue. Life might be unpredictable, but we are not powerless. In a series of midrashim on the Torah portion Bereshit, which is the beginning of our new round of Torah, the ancient rabbis teach that many things happened in the twilight before the first Shabbat. The sages' midrash include the rainbow following the flood as a renewal of the covenant, a promise never to destroy the world. The mouth of the earth that swallowed Korach. Folks, prepare to learn about this Torah portion the second Shabbat in November. Rabbi Aviva will be calling remarkable women to this bima as they become Benot Mitzvah the second Shabbat in November. Oh, and let's all wish Rabbi Aviva a speedy recovery. She's been a bit under the weather since the holidays, and we have spoken with her, we've seen her, we've Zoomed with her, but let's wish her a speedy recovery, as we will when we say the Mischa prayer later. Again, the mouth, the round mouth of the donkey who prevented a sorcerer from cursing the children of Israel and engaged all of us who stood at Sinai, all of our ancestors who moved across the desert, engaged all of us, even those of us who are here in the sanctuary, to learn Torah by singing Ma Tovu. Again, Midrash. So much is supplemented in our Torah. In addition to Midrash, my own thoughts about The World is a Circle, a contemporary song for children by author, singer, guitarist, and very popular contemporary musician Craig Taubman. I wonder if he might have considered his song a midrash for early learners. It goes like this, and I'm not going to sing with my baritone voice. The world is a circle, a never-ending circle, going round and round. I am part of the circle, and all of us, we are part of the circle, as is our Torah scroll. In past years, we unrolled that Torah scroll in a circle around the sanctuary, and we look forward to doing it again next season. All of us, we will continue to wrestle with the uncertainty, just as our biblical ancestors did. Our Babylonian exiles ancestors wrestled with uncertainty. Our oppressed Iberian ancestors wrestled with the uncertainty of becoming Marranos to save their own lives. But we, all of us, will rely upon our strengths as we look forward to the future with hope in our head and hope in our hearts. Where has this week vanished? Is it lost forever? Will I ever recover anything from it. The joy of life, the unexpected victory, the realized hope, the task accomplished. Will I ever be able to banish the memory of pain, the sting of defeat, the heaviness of boredom? No boredom for me. On this day, let me keep for a while what must drift away. On this day, let me be free of the burdens that must return. On this day, Shabbat abide. Help me to withdraw for a while from the flight of time, contain the retreat of the hours and the days from the grasp of a frantic life. Let me learn to pause. Let me find peace on this day. Let me enter into a quiet world on this day. On this day, Shabbat abide. And let's start our observance of our Shabbat here at Temple Sinai by inviting the Butwinick family, Sharon and Erwin, to lead us in the candles and Kiddush as we all turn to page 121 and 120 in our Sidurim.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light. Melech ha'olam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Amen.
Beautiful, Sharon. Thank you. And Erwin? Sharon, stay there. There's wine for both of you.
Okay.
Why don't you hand Erwin the cup of wine as he...
The heaven and the earth were finished, and all their array. On the seventh day, God finished the work that God had been doing. And God ceased on the seventh day from all the work that God had done. And God blessed the seventh day and declared it holy, because on it God ceased from all the work of creation that God had done. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kadsho b'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron lema'aseh v'reshit ki hu yom techila l'mikra'e kodesh zecher l'tziat mitzroim kivanu v'acharta yotanu kidashta mikol hamim v'shabbat kodeshecha b'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. Amen.
L'chaim. Thank you, Sharon and Irwin. Okay. We're going to turn to page 124 in our prayer book for a responsive reading, and Betty's going to assist, and I'm going to ask all of you to join in as well. 124 at the bottom will be a responsive reading. May the door of this synagogue be wide enough to receive all who hunger, all who are lonely for friendship.
May it welcome all who
with
have cares to unburden, thanks to express, hopes to nurture.
May the door of this synagogue be narrow enough to shut out pettiness and pride, envy and enmity.
May its threshold be no stumbling block to young or straying feet.
May it be too high to admit complacency, selfishness, and harshness.
May this synagogue be, for all who enter, the doorway to a richer and more meaningful life.
And let's join together in a hearty Shalom Aleichem as we turn to page 142. And let's join with Dr. David McFarland as he leads us. I'm turning back now to page 137 for a kavanah before we sing a little bit of Lecha Dodi this evening. The voice of Adonai kindles flames of fire. The voice of Adonai convulses the wilderness. Adonai convulses the wilderness of Kadesh. The voice of Adonai causes hinds to calf and strips forests bare, while in God's temple all say glory. Adonai sat enthroned at the floods. Adonai sits enthroned, our sovereign forever. May Adonai grant strength to God's people. May Adonai bestow on God's people well-being. Amen. For Lecha Dodi, we're going to do a quick Sinai version tonight. So we are going to sing verses 1, 5, and 9. And please join with us. Let's admit, Lynn does not have a great singing voice. So bolster me, my friends. And we'll join together, starting on page 138 in our Siddur. Shabbat lekabela, leha dodi, lekabela, penei Shabbat lekabela. Shabbat nikabela, Shamor v'zohor v'oreri, Friends, we're going to stay standing and go to service number 2 in our Siddur, starting on page number 264 for the call to worship the Baruch Hu. Take our seats, thank you. As we turn now to page 265. Adonai, your majesty is proclaimed by the marvels of earth and sky. More on earth and sky later in the Torah portion. Sun, moon, and stars testify to your power and wisdom. Day follows day in endless succession, and the years vanish, but your sovereignty endures. Though all things pass, let not your glory depart from us. Help us to become co-workers with you, and endow our fleeting days with abiding worth. Together, Baruch Atah Adonai, Hama'ariv Aravim. I think we'll move ahead to page number 266, folks, and a responsive reading. In each age, we receive and transmit Torah. At each moment, we are addressed by the world. Together,
in each age, we are challenged by our ancient teaching. At each moment, we stand face to face with truth.
In each age, we add our wisdom to that which has gone before. At each moment, the knowing heart is filled with wonder.
In each age, the children of Torah become its builders and seek to set the world firm on a foundation of truth.
Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. As we join together here in our congregation and our friends at home, with Jewish families and congregations throughout our circle of world, let's all rise for the Shema. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. And we take our seats. We're going to join together in the Ve'ahavta in a moment, and Benot Mitzvah class with all your heart and soul as you practice from your seats. And let's start together, please. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha uv'chol nafshecha uv'chol meodecha v'hayu v'hadvarim ha'eleh asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha v'aderech uv'shofbecha uv'kumecha ug'shartam leot al yudecha v'hayu lo totafot beineinecha uktavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha leman tizkiru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'tem kedoshim leloechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeitiechem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem lelohim ani Adonai Elohechem Adonai Elohechem emet. Told you I'm going baritone. I think, David, we are going to pass on the Micha Mocha this evening and move along because my voice is disappearing on me quickly. Let's, folks, just turn to page 271 at the bottom and let's read together, please. Give us a place to rest, O God. Shelter us in the long, soft evening shadows of your truth. You are true protection and safety. In your presence, we find love and acceptance. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. And together the Hatimah, Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom, aleinu v'al kol amo Yisrael, v'al Yerushalayim. In a moment, we're going to rise for the Amidah, the Tefillah, the central prayer of our service. And just a quick reminder, although it doesn't feel like winter here in Delray Beach in South Florida. It is now winter in the seasons with the addition in the Amidah this evening and go forth until next Shavuot with the transition to Mashiv HaRuach. So just a reminder as we go forth. I will ask everyone who is able to do so, please rise for the Amidah. Betty, why don't you join me at the other microphone without your mask? And at least we can try this together. Okay. Thank you. And I apologize for the disappearing voice.
Adonai, sifatai tiftach, uviaki tahilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu. Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Leah, Elohei Rachel, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora, Eloyon, Gomel Hasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, וזוכר הסדי אבות ואימהות ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם למען שמו באהבה מלך עוזר ומשיח ומגן ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני מקיים הכל אתה רב להושיע משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם מחלחל חיים בחסד מקיים הכל ורחמים רבים צומק נופלים ורופא חולים ומתיר אסורים ומחיה אמונתו משני עפר מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומדום מלך מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה ונאמן אתה לך חיות הכל ברוך אתה אדוני מקיים הכל אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
Take a few moments for silent private prayer, my friends.
Shalom, Shalom bimromav, Hu yaseh Shalom aleinu, ve'al kol ve'Yisrael ve'imru Amen. Hu yaseh Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Amen. Oseh Shalom, Shalom bimromav, Hu yaseh Shalom aleinu, ve'al kol ve'Yisrael ve'imru Amen. Ve'al kol Yisrael Amen.
Thank you, David. In a moment, we are going to begin our Torah service, and in many ways, once again, we are at that circle of who we are. Yesterday, we had a Torah rolling get-together here in the sanctuary, and as Lori Weiss-Wolgen was rolling Torah, I said to her, how about reading it tomorrow night? And she said yes. And so we are blessed to have Lori read a little bit of Torah with us tonight. And so it's my honor to call Eric Adams to the bima, who will be taking out our wonderful Shoah scroll, and also call Lori up as I move some things around. Why don't you and I open our doors, please? And please rise.
Ein kamocha v'Elohim Adonai, ve'en kema'asecha, malchutecha malchut ko'alamim, u'meshaltecha bechol dor v'ador. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai imlok, le'olam va'ed. Adonai oz la'amo yiten, Adonai yivarek et amo v'shalom. Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah, Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah, u'davar Adonai merushalayim. Baruch shenatan Torah, Torah, Baruch shenatan Torah, Torah, le'amo Yisrael b'kedushato. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo. Gadlu Adonai iti, unaroma Moshe mo yakdav. Lecha Adonai hagedula, v'hagevura, v'havtivere, v'hanetzach, v'hadon. Ki kol kol bashamayim ve'aretz, ki kol bashamayim ve'vo va'aretz, ve'kol Adonai hamalacha, ve'hamitnaseh lekol rosh.
Please be seated.
We're going to be doing one congregational aliyah, so if everyone who is able to, please stand up, and everyone at home, please join us. Baruch hu et Adonai hamvarach,
Baruch Adonai hamarak le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamvarach le'olam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et torato, Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah. Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et ha'aret. V'ha'aret hayita hotu v'vohu v'heshef al pnei hatom v'ruach Elohim merachefet al pnei hamayim. V'yomer Elohim yah or v'hi or. When God began to create the heaven and the earth being unformed and void, with darkness over the surface of the deep, and a wind from God sweeping over the water, God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emed, v'chayei olam nata b'torchenu, Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen.
Lori did not remember that she has read Torah from this scroll before.
Went to my mom.
So yesterday,
I had a little more practice that time.
yesterday as she was beginning the process of relearning, because she has learned it before, I had to remind her that she and her mother celebrated reading Torah together on this bima several years ago. And you will do it again, Lori, yes?
Yes, I plan.
Very
Thank
good.
you. It was an honor.
Yasha Koach.
Thank you.
Mhm. At this time in the service, I'd like to ask everyone to please take a seat. And we're going to turn our hearts and minds to our family and friends. I think I'm going to take this off again. We're trying to be as cautious as we can here, of course, at all times. We're turning our hearts and minds to family and friends who are in need of healing, of spirit, especially of spirit over the last couple of years, of body and mind. And there are many members within our own congregation and friends of our congregation whose names will be on the screen in just a few moments. But for those of you who have a loved one for whom you would like to say a prayer of healing, as I gesture around our sanctuary, please stand and say their name. Jim? Okay. Okay. I think I heard Brian, Refuah Shlema. Thank you. Thank you. And of course, we want to wish Refuah Shlema to Rabbi Aviva. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't hear you. Edith and Rosa. Okay. For all those who are named here, and for the members of Temple Sinai, whose names I am going to recite right now: Dr. Hal Bass, Belle Brody, Marilyn Cohen, Elaine Farber, Steve Freed, Ed Greenblatt, Aline Greif, Bruce Heller, James Hernan, Bobby Hyde, Olivia Eisenwasser, Joe Koch, Vicki Kushner, Bill Lazarus, Sandy Lehner, Donna Lopater, Lindsay Lubitz, Steve Nacht, Don and Tama Pasternak, Charlotte Rafelson, Ronnie Richmond, Rosie Sapadin, Joellen Pearl Siegel, Ruth Seidel, Victor Siegel, Bob and Sandy Silver, Harriet Silverman, Joyce and Jerry Seinman, Risa Stern, Lynn Strime, Jay Sweet, Susan Postal Sweet, Zena Wagner, Herb Weinberger, Colby Weinstein, Warren Weiss, Sam Weinman, and Alan Zach. We are now going to sing the Debbie Friedman Mischa Berach. David, if you would. Thank you, David.
Mischa Berach avotenu b'kol habracha v'imotenu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mischa Berach imotenu b'kol habracha la'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Let's turn together in our Siddur to page 374. In a moment, we'll rise as Eric raises the Torah, and you will see that we are truly at the beginning, the very beginning. And we stand.
V'zot haTorah asher sam Moshe l'nei b'nei Yisrael al pi Adonai b'yad Moshe.
And I'm on page 374. For I have given you good instruction, do not abandon my Torah. It is a tree of life for those who hold fast to it, and all of its supporters are happy. David, please.
It is a tree of life to those who hold fast to it, and all of its supporters are happy. It is a tree of life to those who hold fast to it, and all of its supporters are happy. Shalom, 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 shalom. Shalom, shalom, shalom.
God's Torah is perfect, reviving the soul. God's teaching is sure, making wise the simple. God's precepts are right, delighting the mind. God's mitzvot are clear, giving light to the eyes. God's word is pure, enduring forever. God's judgments are true and altogether just. Join me at the bottom of the page, folks, 375. When Torah entered the world, freedom entered it. The whole Torah exists only to establish peace. Its highest teaching is love and kindness. What is hateful to you, do not do to any person. That is the whole Torah. All the rest is commentary. Go and learn it. Those who study Torah are the true guardians of civilization, honoring one another, doing acts of kindness, and making peace. These are our highest duties, but the study of Torah is equal to them all because it leads to them all. Let us learn in order to teach. Let us learn in order to do. Please take your seats, and a good opportunity to remind everyone that Torah study meets every Saturday morning. And as we start the new cycle of reading and talking and discussing and making up our own midrash from time to time, please join us tomorrow at noon. Long distance from Houston, Steve Tamber will be leading us in study once again. And what a beautiful way to start off the new cycle of going round and round in our circle of Torah.
Bless you.
As Bubby would say, a bigazint. And as I said, we're just starting the cycle of Torah reading. Rabbi Aviva shared a drash that she asked me to deliver on her behalf tonight, with some additions that she asked me to choose. This week, we begin the cycle of Torah reading anew, and the reading of Parashat Bereshit, the account of creation. Looking at the description of the creation of human beings, we see two different accounts. In the first account of the creation of humans, in Genesis chapter 1, verse 27, the text tells us, quote, "And God created man, Adam, in his image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them." Yes, I said male and female. In the second account of creation, in Genesis 2, verse 21, the text states, "So Adonai, God, cast a deep sleep upon the man, and while he slept, he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh at that spot." As those of us who've delved into Torah know, there are different stories as we go along with each of our readings. Some contradict one another, some elucidate on one another. This one, a little bit different. And so Adonai, God, fashioned the rib that he had taken from the man into a woman, and he brought her to the man. Then the man said, "This one at last is bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. This one shall be called woman." In Hebrew, that is Isha. For from man, Ish, she was taken. Hence a man leaves his father and his mother's home and clings to his wife, so that they become one flesh. Many of you have heard those words in the Peter, Paul, and Mary wedding song. It was sung at my wedding a few years ago, more than a few. So according to the first account of the creation of humanity, the first man and the first woman were created simultaneously. But according to the second story in Genesis 2, Eve was taken from Adam, from his side or from one of his ribs. Of course, from the earliest time, the rabbis questioned, what could this possibly mean? Since for the ancient rabbis, there is never anything extraneous added to Torah. Words of Torah are very specific, deliberate, no additions, no deletions. They're there for a reason. So, of course, as I said early on this evening, the midrash, the storytelling, the Agadah, comes into being. And the stories sometimes explain the inconsistencies in our Torah, and sometimes they miss the mark, but those stories can miss the mark. They are not Torah. In some instances, they may be a maisa from a babi. In some instances, and in most instances in the textual midrash, they are from our ancient rabbi sages. One of the midrashim arose that explained why the woman was created twice. That midrash conceives of two different women who were created and calls the first woman who was created not Eve, but Lilith. In that midrash, the two first people argue as to who has supremacy. The male and the female in the household never argue, do they? Who is the boss of you on any given occasion is really what comes through. So in this midrash from an ancient rabbi, there was a disagreement about supremacy in that ancient household. Lilith claims that they are equals, as they were both made from the dust of the earth. Adam is not happy with this, and Adam claims that he is higher ranking than she is. So Lilith pronounces the unpronounceable name of the Holy One, and with that, she is cast away. Cast away, disappears, just is no longer present. Adam complains to the Holy One that the woman that he had conceived, or if it was the Shekhinah that she had conceived, had been cast away. In some of the midrash from this story, perhaps the angels are tasked with bringing Lilith back, but that doesn't really happen. So then Eve is created from Adam's side, and it is clear that he is supreme over her. And Rabbi Aviva writes, incidentally, God is able to do this easily since Adam actually had two faces. And in some stories, Adam is actually identified as an androgynous being who is split into two to create the first woman and man. I actually had to reread that this morning. And thus the name Adam for the first human is better translated as human or even earthling rather than man. The Hebrew name Adam is derived from Adamah, or the earth, just as human comes from the word humus or earth. Throughout these rabbinic stories, Lilith is demonized further as an unlikable individual. In one midrash, she is referred to as a child stealer. It's a difficult word to say, but indeed, we hear about children being kidnapped very frequently, unfortunately. Lilith herself was unable to become a mother, so she chooses to mother other children. The Midrash explains that if mothers place the name of any of 3 angels who tried to capture Lilith on an amulet over the crib, Lilith will be forced to abandon her attempted kidnapping. Later stories and superstitions emerge about incorrect names for children and babies of all kinds, but in later Midrash, the word Lilith does indeed become synonymous with the word demon. Rabbi Aviva goes on, with the advent of what we now call the women's liberation movement, my goodness, that was a long time ago, Rabbi, later known as feminism, Lilith was hailed as a heroine, and today there are Lilith assemblies and studios and Lilith gatherings for women's study throughout the world, actually. The first woman, Lilith, who stood up to Adam, is really honored in Lilith festivals today. By looking at this midrash, we see clearly that in the exclusive male world of rabbis, there had been no regard for women. But in later years, indeed, that has changed. This past year, our world celebrated the 50th anniversary of the first ordination of a woman. And she has been hailed and hailed and hailed for breaking down that barrier. To go on, in spite of great caution, Rabbi indicates woman has all the faults that God tried to obviate. The daughters of Zion were haughty and walked with stretched forth necks and wanton eyes. Sarah was indeed an eavesdropper if we carefully look at Torah. An eavesdropper in her own tent. When the angel spoke with Abraham, Miriam was a talebearer, accusing Moses. Rachel was envious of her sister Leah. Eve put out her hand to take the forbidden fruit, and Dinah was referred to as a gadabout. So perhaps Torah, the text of Torah, indeed questions some values of some women in the early Torah writings. I don't feel real comfortable with that idea at all. In our tradition, beginning with the rabbinic interpretations of the second account of creation in the very first story, it's no wonder that it's taken to the end of the 20th century and into our current century for it to become more commonplace for women to be on the bima, including this congregation. Yes, we always have women on the bima, and we invite every male member of this congregation to step forward and take a role on the bima. You're always welcome, and we will always assist you with enhancing your comfort level of being on this bima and being a leader in our congregation. This synagogue volunteers are what makes this synagogue go round and round and round. And we are very blessed to have both men and women here who really put forth all of their efforts. Let's get back to my conclusion now. To the average person, the opening chapters of our Bible, of our Torah, that Lori read tonight, there's an obstruction to an appreciation of the Bible as a whole because the Genesis story goes back and forth. And as we go forth in Torah, there are so many things that we will question week after week after week. But finding the account of creation throughout our Torah is just a foundation. To grasp the full value, we must bear in mind that it's only intended as an introductory foundation for the main theme of Torah. And that main theme of Torah is very clear to me. It is the part that the Jewish people have played and will continue to play in the destiny of our world. Because, as we will continue to read next week, in the 7 days of creation, God saw that it was very good. And the Torah sings the refrain that the world was perfect when it came out of the hand of God. Shabbat Shalom. Betty, I think you have some additional announcements for our congregation. Okay.
Hello again. As we didn't have a chance to publicly recognize last week's sponsors, I'd like to thank them first. Last week's Erev Shabbat service was sponsored by, or would have been sponsored by, Ruth Seidel and Sam Weinman in memory of Richard Jablow, Hugh Pincus in memory of Rose Pincus, Donna and Larry Lopater in memory of Sylvia Lopater, James Hurt in honor of those seen and unseen who devote their time and loving devotion to this temple. How sweet. The following donations to the community food pantries were sponsored by Belle Brody in memory of Hyman Brody, Marcia Weber in memory of Isidore Weber, and our Saturday, September 25th Torah study was sponsored by Elisa Eisenman in memory of Hannah Weiner, James Hurt in honor of the learned Torah study leaders, and Seema and Ann Griedblatt in honor of my birthday, which was like a month ago, but it's still happening. I love that. Okay, and now I'd like to acknowledge this week's sponsors. Tonight's Erev Shabbat service is sponsored by Judy and David Stern in memory of Judy's beloved father, Hyman Wechter, Bill Lazarus in memory of his beloved wife, Marcy Lazarus, Irving Goldstein in memory of his beloved son, Bruce Goldstein, Harriet Silverman in memory of her beloved husband, Everett Silverman, and her father, Martin Greenberg, Donna and Larry Lopater in honor of Rabbi Aviva's speedy recovery, Iris and Hal Bass in honor of Rabbi Aviva's swift and complete recovery, and their message to her, we love you. The following donations to the community food pantries are sponsored by Marcia Weber in memory of Fanny Weber. And our Saturday, October 2nd Shabbat Torah study is sponsored by Bill Lazarus in memory of his beloved wife, Marcy Lazarus, Sue Wexler in memory of Edmund Wexler, Harriet Silverman in memory of her beloved husband, Everett Silverman, and her father, Martin Greenberg. And now I have some brief announcements somewhere. Sundays at Sinai is back in person. Starting October 17th, the topic is How American Jews Vote and Why, presented by Dr. Miriam Sanwa-Dallin, a professor of Jewish studies who specializes in Jewish history with an emphasis on the United States. There are flyers in the lobby. You can see Jane Brown to sign up on your way out tonight. Or for those at home, you can go to TempleSinaiPBC.net to sign up and pay online. Brotherhood and Sisterhood are having a movie night and ice cream social on Saturday, October 23rd. The ice cream will be individually packaged, just to make sure you understand. The movie is an oldie but a goodie from the year 2000 called Keeping the Faith. You can see Eric Adams to sign up. You can also go to TempleSinaiPBC.net to sign up and pay online. That will take you to the right place. Something very special is happening at the Delray Beach Public Library. There's a traveling exhibition called Americans and the Holocaust, running from October 6th to November 17th. And our city library is the first location on the tour, and Temple Sinai and the magnificent Temple Sinai Library are thrilled to be sponsors of this event. You can go to the library's website, delraylibrary.org, to see each day's special focus. There are so many different aspects covered. No admission. It's completely free and open to the public. Masks are required in the library, and we hope that you all take advantage. You can at least look at the programs online and see what you like. One more announcement. I've saved the best for last. Next week, we are so excited to welcome our new cantorial soloist, student cantor, Daniel Geigerman, to our bima. Please plan to come in person or tune in from home and meet him and see him and get to know him. Thank you very much. Shabbat Shalom.
Lori, could you please come up so that you can assist in opening the ark doors for Elenu? We are going to rise and join together in Elenu on page 586. We are seated. Our thoughts turn to those whose lives we cherish who are no longer with us. The lives of family and friends, and the nameless people who perished in the recent 2 years, and the thousands and millions who perished in the Shoah. We honor the lives of those whose memorial bars are kindled for their yurt sites this evening, scattered on the walls in our sanctuary. They include Edward Berman, Catherine Case, Hetty Helen Costin, Arthur B. Fine, Marvin Glickman, Joseph Goldbert, Matla Heimowitz, Judith Herman, Richard Jablow, she gave me the wrong list, Louis Jassam, Samuel Kenny, Blanche Newman, Charlene Parker, Bertha Pector, Rose Pincus, Judith Ripp, Evelyn Stitch, Saul Stillman, Adolf Weisenberg. And there will be another list read next week. These are the names from last week, folks, and I apologize. Also included, Hyman Brody, Linda Fields, Eugene Goldfarb, Bernard Hattenbach, Clara Lair, Sylvia Lopater, Max Nelson, Manuel Pyrus, William Ratner, Bernard Resnick, Fanny Sohn, Sylvia Salkoff-Stamler, Florence Stein, Isidore Weber, and Hannah Weiner. We also mourn the more recent passing of members of our thank you, Betty. Additional names to be read this evening with the kindled lights. Manny Abramson, Shoal Bren, Jeanette Brody, Heinz Follickman, Max Froworth, Sarah Gerber, Catherine Harris, Henry Hart, Lena Klinghoffer, Leon Klinghoffer, Marcy Lazarus, Alta Nadelberg, Sarah Noodleman, Pauline Rachlin, Benjamin Sumbol, Robert T. Silver, Abraham Silverman, Benjamin Spivak, Benjamin Stein, and Hyman Wechter. Others we are mourning this time of year: Philip Broadman, Sam Jason, Yankel Estrich, Anna Fox, George Goldschlag, Bruce Goldstein, Celia Lehner, Sue Mann, Jerome Pacer, Everett Silverman, Fanny Weber, Edmund Wexler, and Marlene Wallowitz. And the more recent deaths, those in the last 30 days in which we are observing the Shloshim period, include Randy Lair, Ariel Jade Novick, Wilma Billy Kahn, George Greenberg, Martin Lubelski, and Carl Love. If there is someone for whom you are saying Kaddish this evening, please stand and recite their name. For those at home who are joining us and mourning someone dear to you, please recite their names as we all stand and join together in the Mourner's Kaddish in our prayer book, page 598. 598. And together we recite, Yitkadal v'yiskadash shemei rabbah, v'yalma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayachon yovmechon uv'kayet Beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shemei rabbah mevorach leolam holmei omaya. Yitbarah v'yishtar v'yitra'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudashah b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nehamata, damiran b'yalma v'imru, amen. Yehei shloma rabba min shemaya, v'haim aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. Osei shalom b'mromav, huya sei shalom, aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us and to all Israel, to which we all say, Amen. Please take your seats. David, what do you suggest for a closing song? Okay. Please join us, folks. Ein Eloheinu is in your book, but it's not in, I don't have the page number. I apologize. It is not in my book. It's in the other book, Betty. Okay. It's somewhere in the 800s, so. How about we'll close with Osei Shalom again, David, as we're looking for a page. Okay. Oh. 626, thank you. Thank you very much. Go ahead. Shabbat Shalom.
And thank you, Lynn.